Hi, I'm Kara O, and welcome to another edition of Lip Smackin' Love. There is a problem with how most people go into a relationship, but particularly marriage. And that is, all too often, it's built on a fantasy. And the problem with the fantasy is, not only is it doesn't fit reality, the fantasy doesn't have many details. It doesn't have how are we going to treat each other, how are we going to resolve conflict, how are we going to deal with children, how are we going to deal with chores, how are we going to deal with money. None of that is in the fantasy. And so often, that's all that is there. And some habits that you've developed in the time that you've been getting to know each other. And then you decide to go into this committed relationship. Men are more pragmatic because they look at it more from a kind of financial situation. Can I afford to take on this responsibility of another person? And if you're young and going to make children, however many children you have, and then from an emotional perspective, am I willing to take on the emotional responsibility for this woman? So, because men do take that on. They feel responsible for a woman's happiness, and that's a big responsibility to take on. So, a better way to go into a marriage or even a long-term committed relationship, whatever that looks like, is to look at it from what I call the perspective of win-win love. And what that means is to be able to develop the skills, and this is ongoing. I mean, you don't have to read any of my books to be able to learn to do this. You can learn it yourself, but my books help, and it gives you things to think about and exercises to do to clear up the thinking and to make you think about things you hadn't thought about. But basically, if you just go into the relationship with the perspective of win-win love, you're going to do better than most couples, because what win-win loves means is you will look at every decision and every choice and every conflict from the perspective of how can we come to a resolution, an agreement, to where we both feel like we win. And sometimes that may take some real conversations, some real deep, and maybe lots of conversations until you decide on what's going on. I remember, I don't know why this came to mind. I remember when I was first married, and we didn't have much money, but, we were getting started, and we went to this, some sort of home kind of convention things where they have all the home products and all that. We went to this thing, and they had this recliner chair. That was before recliner chairs were common. I don't know if we'd ever seen one before, but if we hadn't seen one this good looking, and now I look back on it, it's like ugly as sin. But at the time, we laid in it, and it vibrated and heated, and we both went, oh, wow, this is really great. Yeah, it was great, but we didn't talk about it. He assumed that I wanted it because I thought it was great. I assumed he wanted it because he thought it was great. But we never talked about it. We made the decision, oh yeah, let's go ahead and get it. We never talked about it. And later we found out, you didn't want it? No, I thought you wanted it. You didn't. And we both were sorry that we bought this, and it was pretty expensive for where we were at that time in our lives. So even something as simple as that, if you have the conversation about together, we're making this decision together. Is this going to make us both feel like we win? What movie should we go to? I don't know. What do you want to go to? Or I just want to go to that one, and you don't ask the other one, do you want to go? The other person just agrees because it's easier, or they're the one that always agrees, like I was. But it's not really always what I wanted to do. That's not win-win love. I had a little resentments around that, but it was mostly at myself for not speaking up. I've learned to speak up since, but that was when I was in my 20s. Well, actually, I didn't start learning to speak up till more recently. But, it's an ongoing process, and I'm a whole lot better now. I mean, there's not night and day. But it's part of speaking up, and it's part of being willing to have a conversation where you don't get what you want. Or that you have to both decide, you know what, we're not going to even do it. Because neither one of us feel good about, we can't come up with a resolution to where we both feel like winners. Because if you do cave in, or one says, no, we're going to do it this way, the other person is not going to feel like a winner. It will change everything if you will look at your relationship from this perspective. You don't have to have any lessons from me beyond that. Just have this be the goal in everything you do together. Win-win love. How can we come to a resolution, an agreement, so that we both feel like winners and neither one of us feels like a loser? It'll change everything. And it makes your heart open up to the other person. It makes you care about what they want. Makes you appreciate their perspective. Think about sex. How this would change things. To where you decide, one wants to have sex and the other one doesn't, but the other one just says they're tired or doesn't respond. You're not speaking up. The other guy, we assume it's usually him, but not always. I've had it where I'm often the one that's being turned down, but that's why I'm not with them anymore. So it's really a matter of talking about even those things so that you both feel like winners. There's a lot of stuff that goes on beneath the surface. That's what creates resentment. And I swear, I've said it before, resentment is the poison. You just pour it on that and your love dies. It just gets eaten up. So, win-win love. Think about it. Start noticing how you are with your partner or your husband or your wife. Are we doing win-win love here? Are we both feeling like winners in every agreement that we make? And when one of you has to disagree, then you continue to talk about it until the other person says, I get it. It's okay. Go ahead. It's not what I would have chosen, but I get it and I support you and I love you. That's win-win love, even though the other person may not have gotten their way. See? So, anyway, I hope that gives you something to think about. It's really an important concept, win-win love. See if you can incorporate it in even the small decisions and choices you make, and then start building up to the more difficult conversations that you need to have. So, that's it for that topic right now. I'm Kara O, wishing you lots of lip smack and love. Mwah!